Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode six or seven, I believe, of the Injuries Overcome podcast. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by ex-professional Jake Jervis. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Pleased to be on and looking forward to having a discussion and chat about things.
Yeah, it's a privilege to have you. First of all, I'll get into the here and now. How are you? What are you up to at the moment?
So I'm currently transitioning from, I've transitioned from full-time football to part-time football. I've been studying my level 3 counselling over this last year, and that's coming towards an end this June. I've been doing some coaching. You can see there, I do a little plug 23 Academy. So that's with my best friend and ex-professional footballer as well, Carl Bennett, and within the Telford area, doing one-to-ones, team sessions. We've got our own little finishing factory on the side, which is with Dan Udo, who's still currently playing at Shrewsbury Town. So that's been successful. Really enjoying doing that, sharing on the experience and stuff there. Going into the field of player care as well. So working alongside the player care group as a consultant, which will be good because it wasn't really, as we'll probably get into throughout the podcast, it wasn't really a thing in my career, player care or that kind of outlet for you to go on to speak to someone. And doing my UEFA in June. So yeah, got a lot going on, but it's all exciting stuff leading on to that next career and that kind of going down that pathway and seeing a route, which is good.
Now, I was going to ask, how did you find the transition of going from full-time to part-time and sort of establishing your career outside of the football pitch? But I guess you've got one or two things there that you've said you're doing.
Yeah.
And I suppose, would you say you found it easier than others, or would you say it's still been a struggle?
It was an interesting one because I did ask a lot of questions myself. So I finished in Finland last October, which is full time, and just missed out on the league on goal difference, winning the league. Came back, started training with a team in close to home in League One. So it's kind of my goal was, okay, I could go straight from that back into football in England, keep going, and potentially that could be my last club here. And then I'll look at the transition, maybe play another year and just see how it went. Things happen like they do in football, managers get sacked and different things. And then I was kind of like, I'd kind of had enough of this. Your life is kind of in the hands of a football club or football teams or whatever it is, and you're waiting for a contract. And despite having interest from Europe and different places, Asia and all this, I didn't really want to move away from home again. So I obviously was there, manager got sacked, different things happened. I was kind of like, look, I've had enough of this kind of going back and forward and stuff. So I decided I'm not going to play football for the rest of the season. First few weeks, fine. Then I found it difficult. I was just like, look, I'm getting the itch. I want to play football again. I had an opportunity part-time, which would just keep me fit at Brackley, which I thought, yeah, I'll try that. Go there for a month. All honesty, didn't really enjoy it that much, the travelling and different things. Great staff and the boys all cool, but it was just the travelling, Tuesday night, getting home at 11 and all. It just wasn't working for me and my family. So I kind of thought, okay, that's not for me. Then over the next couple of weeks, it was a weird one because I kind of had this. I've always been someone that's planned and I've got things in place and stuff that I want to go and do like now. But it's still not easy to come away from that identity as a footballer. It's a big thing that a lot of people talk about, the identity and attaching yourself to it, because it's been your life since you were potentially 4 years old. All you wanted to do is play football. Then you get to the next stage where you're a scholar, then you get your pro, and then there's all the transitions throughout that. So yeah, it was difficult because the first question anyone asks you is, "Oh, how's football? How's this?" And that's, as a footballer, that's kind of how it goes. So it's difficult not to keep yourself within that world and be, you know what I mean? So it was hard. It was hard. Had an opportunity. I turned down numerous clubs and stuff because it wasn't. I didn't think it was for me, and I tried the part-time thing, but it was travelling. And then Hensford, which is 30 minutes down the road from me, got in touch, mentioned about a few players that were going to come in. I knew a few boys there, and I was like, you know what? why not just give it a go? And I've loved it, to be honest. So it's that's really helped me to ease into that transition where I'm still getting my football fix. As well, people will know through my social media that I'm always going to work out and do all that kind of thing, and I post about it a lot, and keeping fit and mentally, it just puts me in a great place working out. So I'll do that regardless. But then doing it with the football, the part-time training once a week, and the game, it just works well with everything I've got going on to network, progress with my work stuff away from the field. It's definitely helped. So there was that initial period, a few weeks and a month, where I'm thinking, yeah, this identity thing, do I want this? Asking a lot of questions, and my mood would change a bit. But I think because I have plans from 28 or so, I've been doing my counselling qualification and courses, getting in touch with people, putting myself out there now more recently with networking and Teams calls and all these things. I think it's definitely helped, and it is something that people should do from a lot younger. That the PFA massive, you've got courses you can do and all these things. I think people need to start taking more advantage of it, because it does take away a lot of stresses from relying upon football.
Yeah, so obviously one of the things you spoke about that you're doing is the counselling, but you're also doing the player care. Talk to me about the reason for why you wanted to do that, because that's quite, in my opinion, I don't hear much about that sort of thing from footballers transitioning into that. It's quite a niche market. So talk to me about that.
So the counselling came from exactly that. I was in Finland. I wanted to be proactive in doing something away from the field, because it was that, again, that came around to mental health, keep myself in a good place, because I'd find myself, I'd go to training and I'm doing things just for the sake of it, so that I won't go back home and have that isolation because my family wasn't there and these kind of things. So I decided I want to do some kind of course, and to be honest, I wasn't too sure where I wanted to go with it. What I was asking myself questions, should I do this? And then speaking to friends, family, they were kind of like, why don't you go into some kind of mentor thing, a coaching thing? The coaching thing didn't appeal to me at the time, but the mentor thing, it was kind of like I was already that person within the team that I was at in Finland, where the young boys were asking me questions. They were coming to me, oh, what do you think about this? And that kind of, I was naturally doing it. I was doing the talks in the huddles before the game, and I wasn't the captain as well. So it's kind of like one of those things where I'd taken it on, and it was really something that was me, because I was just real with it. I was honest and open, but positive. I wouldn't go down that route of, oh, we've got to fight, we've got to do all that. It would be just more of a positive outlook on it. Really empower the players in knowing how good they are as players, how good they are as human beings. That kind of factors around it really help players, and you could see it, like they stick the chest out and would go out and we'd just enjoy ourselves. There wasn't that kind of fear to get on the ball. You've got young boys 20 years old that want the ball, and it made a big difference. So I saw there was a level 2 counselling skills course through the PFA. So I thought, yeah, why not try it, see how I get on. Had the reservations about, I hadn't done any studying since I was a kid. So I was like, nah, as soon as you think education and all these different things, I was like, is it for me? And I raised it in the class. They're asking, oh, what are your concerns? And it's kind of like, look, because it's very in counselling, yeah, it's about a lot of self-awareness and understanding and being congruent, which is honest with yourself and showing that to others. So it's kind of like, yeah, I'll share, because I'm pretty open at sharing anyway. So I shared that I was worried about the workload and all the different things. And then as soon as we got started, it was kind of like just flowed with it. You know what I mean? Like anything, I've spoke about this before, like stepping out of your comfort zone. As soon as you step out of it and do that, you're like, okay, that's not too bad. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought. The thoughts are a lot worse than the actual doing the process and going through it. So yeah, it was good to step into that world. And then yeah, from there did my level 2, finished that year, passed that, and then level 3 I was thinking, yeah, why not? I've really enjoyed it, let me do level 3. And I've enjoyed it even more so, and the skills that I've learned and learning a bit more in depth into the different theories and all that kind of stuff. It's 2 years of big growth within myself. I'd recommend the course to anyone, the level 2 counselling skills, because it is about real self-development and looking within yourself and seeing who you are as a person and being honest with yourself, and you start to recognize different things within yourself, within others, where you can really help. So yeah, that was kind of the counselling side of things. And it's the player care is kind of, it's more, came into it more and more, where I've seen within football that there's not really an outlet like for players because they're scared of, for me, and I spoke to a lot of people, we were scared to go and talk to someone about any issues we're going through because we didn't want to be out the team. We didn't want to be judged for being this word, which I still don't know what it is, that mentally weak. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like all these things where you're trying to suppress and you've got all these emotions and feelings and it's not helping you on the football pitch. So yeah, it was kind of spoke to various people in different areas at Premier League clubs and networked with people, and then kind of came across Hugo at the Player Care Group, and it's just interesting to see what they've been doing, the processes that they've got in place, the network of people, and it's just amazing, like what they're doing for people within football clubs. So it was kind of, yeah, that was that path. I'd already been had that in the process, been speaking with people at the PFA about different roles and different stuff as well. So yeah, it's kind of developed from there, and here I am now going into next season with a few different roles within clubs in the Premier League and within a club in the Premier League, sorry, and then the Player Care Group. So it's interesting to see how it all develop.
Do you feel, obviously, you've not had a bad career at all, but do you feel as though if the player care stuff was around when you were playing full time, especially back in your early days, do you think that that may have impacted you in a better way? Do you think you could have done a bit more or a bit better, or does that not really come into your mind?
You get asked, I get asked, oh, did you fulfill this? Did you do that? And it's kind of like I've had 3 promotions, I've scored however many goals, played at Wembley, played in these big stadiums. So it's kind of like I'm fulfilled within my career I've had. But like you say, it's one of those. If you would have had the right player care person in place, yeah, but you can still have people that aren't good at their practice. So it's difficult to say yes or no. And you know, we play that ifs, buts, maybe game. But at the same time, it definitely would have helped to have someone, say, separate to a sports psychologist, where for me, when I was younger, going out alone, the target setting, the doing all that, it would just make my mind spiral. So I'm going into a game, I've got 27 targets I've set myself and all these things, and I've got to have this amount of shots, got to do all this. And it's like, once you've had a bad touch, you're already like, oh, what do I do? And all that wasn't for me. So as soon as I stopped doing that, around, I'd say, Plymouth time, you saw it at Plymouth time, and it showed on the pitch. I'd scored 11 goals in pre-season. I had 11 goals by October in the league. It was like, I was just focusing on, okay, bit by bit, each game, the here and now, not worrying about the future, not worrying about the past. The only thing I control is the here and now, and I can only control what I do. That was the big thing. Instead of, oh well, he's not done this and all these kind of things like a lot of us do. You can't do nothing about that. Yes, I can help him by talking to him, but I can't control if he's going to pass the ball to me, or they're the things that are out of my control. I can't control. So yeah, there's a lot of that, but it really helped me to say, okay, this is, and you could see it in my career. Like I'd had loan moves, done well, scored. I'd always scored goals, but it'd be in patches and different loan moves and stuff. And I spoke about it. A lot of these loan moves were down to me not feeling comfortable, the club, just didn't work out for the club or whatever it was. So, and because I was in demand and the attributes I had, I would go out on loan. I'd kind of done that 21s level, and I did that at 15, 16 years old. So it didn't make sense for me now at 19 and 20 to stay within, just not playing week in, week out in the club, because I'm at a Premier League club which we're competing, or a top championship club which we're competing to play at a decent level. So you'd be like, 4th choice, would it be worth staying around waiting for injuries, or do I go out and play and try and develop and kick myself on? Because I think by 21 I'd had the experience of going on loan clubs, League One and all that stuff, and it really helped. So yeah, there's a lot to it, but I'm rambling on here. I'm going down different rabbit holes and stuff like I do.
No, it's great. No, it's a lot of information. I much prefer that. It's better when I can sort of, the whole point is me sort of saying one thing and you going off on whatever path you choose to go on. I guess this is an injuries podcast and overcoming those injuries. What would you say in your career was the toughest part in terms of an injury, and maybe the mental side of things as well, or that may not have come into it, but regardless, what was the toughest period?
I'd say the one injury that was the toughest was easily the one in Turkey. A lot of things going on. So joined the team, started really well. Played for Fenerbahce, scored against them, which was amazing. We'd won against Trabzonspor in our next game, which was a big team over there. won like our first 3 games, so it's like a great start. Considering when I joined, they were like right down at the bottom in the January window, because they have the break, they have the winter break, then they come back in. It's kind of like a new season kind of thing. So we had, what was it, a training camp in Antalya. So it was all new to me, this like international break and different things. So I thought we had a week's break and we're just going away. And we played a game against a team from Iraq, I think, or Iran. Pre-season, not pre-season, sorry, off-season, mid-season, sorry, friendly. So played in that. First ball's come into me, got smashed from behind him. I was like, what's going on here? Like couldn't understand why. Literally first ball, again did the same thing, and I was like, nah, it's taking the mickey here, like kind of. And then like kind of he stood on my foot again, and I lost my head and tried to like grapple with him, whatever, all handbags and all that stuff. But then came off the pitch and my foot was just throbbing. It was really hurting. I was like, look, my foot's really hurting. So like, yeah, we'll get a scan. Went and got a scan and found out that I broke my 5th metatarsal in my foot. So frustrating, which would have meant usually you have an operation for that, but they didn't think I needed one. So it was around 3 months I'd be out, which was more or less the season. I missed the second half of the season, so it's a big portion of that time. So I'm on my own in Turkey, in Elazig. 21 years old, just in my apartment, not really having an outlet for people to talk to or share with, partners in England. I just felt alone, really, just me. And then my granddad passed away in difficult ways, committed suicide. So that was difficult to take in, and I couldn't really process it. Like I couldn't understand why. There was a lot of why questions, and at that age, because I was so young, it was kind of like why. And I'll be honest, a lot of people, why would you do that, this and that, and I couldn't understand why. But then obviously, as I've matured and understood things, and with the counselling and different things, I understand why people don't see a way out. And with mental health and stuff, your thoughts and your feelings that you go through, that sometimes can be the only way that you see you're helping others around you, and it's a way out to release yourself from the pain. So yeah, it was difficult to really understand at the time. I'm frustrated because I can't really do much, and I'm someone that always loves to work out, like I mentioned, and keep myself active. So I was just kind of going to my crutches into the training ground. Wasn't really pleasant person to be around. I'd go back to my apartment, sit there, Xbox, not really interacting with anyone really. Kept it from my family, as you do as a man, because that's what we do as men, which is unfortunate for us as human beings, because we don't allow ourselves to share with people and just be emotionally intelligent to understand that you can get a lot of help from just opening up and speaking to someone. So yeah, that was a real difficult period, because I was just fighting a lot of demons within my head, not really sharing stuff with people. And even today, I mentioned it to my partner, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry but it's not down to my partner." And she was there supporting me in the best way she could. She was always messaging me, always ringing me, but it wasn't me sharing what was really going on the inside, which is the difficult part. You need to help yourself in the end, don't you? And if I would have had someone in the player care, or someone just an outlet to speak to and all that kind of thing, that could have really helped. And someone separate away from, say, family members and people close to you, because it is hard to share with your family members, because you don't want to feel like a burden. That was me at the time. I didn't want to feel like I was a burden. And now with age, I understand you're not a burden on anyone. No one's a burden on anyone by sharing and speaking to them. But when you're younger and you've not got the understanding to it, that's how you feel. So it was difficult, because being on your own, the isolation and all that, it's not something that you'd think would be a big factor, but it really is. It's difficult to be on your own in different country, to move away from people. And even when you're on your own, even in the UK, and even you've got family members and stuff and all that, even living on your own, going back and potentially having food, it's not easy sometimes, like when you're going through stuff. So yeah, it's a big thing to really highlight within football. And it's not only that, the isolation, everyone else on the training pitch, you're on your own in the gym. there's a lot to it where you are on your own. Even if you have got, say, you're going like I'm going into a training ground, there's 20 plus players, there's all these different staff members and all this stuff. I still felt like I was alone. Like I'm just going into the gym. I'm just not really existing. I'm just around. You know what I mean? I'm not really within the group. I'm not a part of it and stuff. So it was difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose as well, because you were out in another country as well, the language barrier could have proved another issue, because obviously you can't just call your mate or go and see someone down the road. That's you sort of when things like that happen, the language barrier in how much detail you need to go into it becomes an issue as well, I assume.
Yeah, because you've got to really, you don't want to talk to people. That's the thing. Like, so you really have to explain things and over interact with people. And there's boys from different countries, Holland and different places that I was close with and stuff, but not close enough to say, look, I want to, I'll come around and talk to you and open. And you know what I mean? It wasn't that kind of relationship because we were so young. It's very much different at that age.
So obviously you went to a lot of clubs throughout your career and a lot of different countries as well. What was the different facilities like? Because obviously you go up and down the clubs, there's more money invested in player care and the rehabilitation and stuff. What did you notice in clubs up and down the leagues and in different countries?
In terms of facilities or the player care or different
Both.
Both. Okay. Facilities, I've been very first loan move, 17 to turn 18, Hereford, where that was very different. Then you've got facilities where what could I say? Even if we got Turkey, in that Turkey, it was just like very not really for a team that's in the top league. You'd be thinking it would be a lot better, but it was the first time in the top league, so yeah, it's very different. There was horses walking around the training ground, random dogs, and it was horse got on a pitch a few times. Everyone's running around. There's some stories that I could tell you which are wild, but then you've got players that have played in the Champions League in at different levels. So on that side of things, it was one of the best some of the best players I've been around and experienced things with. But it's just a wide range. It's because you can have teams that invest a lot of money. They'll either a lot of teams at that can invest money into wages and getting the best players in, but the facilities won't add up. Which, say, like Salford right now, their facilities are not nowhere near where they should be for what they're investing into the club. So it was one of those where you get such a wide range facility wise. Player care wasn't a thing in my career. I can say that from real young there wasn't. It used to be player liaison, it's ridiculous really when I think about it in terms of at the time where if I'm an 18, 19-year-old boy, I shouldn't really be getting someone to sort out my bills and all these kind of things. And even Sky, I got someone to sort out my Sky package and they got you on this VIP Sky package and all this stuff. They're life skills that I need to learn myself. You know what I mean? It's, of course, I'm very appreciative of the women that did it because they were amazing. They did everything for you, great people and all that. But you really need to learn how to do these things and these processes yourself, because I get to 35 years old and I don't know how to pay a bill and I'll set up a direct debit and all these things. Like we all smile at it, but it's kind of, if you've never done it, it's like the unknown to you, you know what I mean? And as soon as you step outside that bubble, you don't tend to have those people around helping you anymore. So there's some things that are needed, I think, for certain players. Everyone's different, so some players might need that, getting their bills sorted, this and that, and so they can focus on the football, and that's the sole purpose, because there's so much that your whole week goes into playing on that Saturday. The build-ups that week, you've got to shape. If you're a professional on 24 hours a day, you have to be a professional, you know what I mean? You've got to look after your body and all these kind of things. And despite only being in the training ground for 4 or 5 hours of the day, the rest of your day is shaped and built around, okay, I'm going to do this in the afternoon, I'll have a sleep, I'll go and do some work in the gym, I'll do something for my mental capacity, performance wise. This is the process is, even on your day off, it's not a day off because you have to go to the gym. Then you spend a bit of downtime, you'll see your family, but then it'll be something in the evening that will be around maybe watching clips or whatever it is. Everything is shaped for that Saturday. So it's a lot of mental focus and a lot of stuff that you put into it. But if you haven't got that player care side to things, it becomes a lot. You know what I mean? To know when to offload, know when to take a step back, know when to push a bit harder. hard to find a balance, and it's difficult because now more and more it's coming into the game. 100% player care, it's big. You can see it. The bigger clubs have got it in there. League One, League Two level. Is it there as much? I wouldn't say so now. Even training with the team recently in League One, there was no one there around player care and anyone you can talk to, because they had great staff members that you feel, yeah, I could say something to, but it's still that thing. I've got to be mentally strong. I've got to be this. I've got to be that because I want to play. So, and you've got the expectation from a senior player or someone that, and it's normal. You're going to have expectation of players around you because everyone wants to win, and there's a lot on the line. You know what I mean? It's people's livelihoods. The managers can get sacked week to week now. It's kind of like the managers can be in the job for a month and then they get people talking about them getting sacked because they've lost 3 games. You know what I mean? So there's a lot within the game and the expectations and the pressures that come with it. But again, having that player care, I feel, is a big outlet to really help, players to just offload and share.
Yeah, because I know, especially when I'm not as a professional and being sort of unable to do physical activity, I know I've always been someone that if I'm stressed or struggling mentally, I'll go for a jog, or I'll go to the gym, or I'll do some swimming or something. So not being able to do that definitely affected me a lot. I think that then brought on, if you didn't have that outlet or someone to talk to, obviously I had loads of people around me to talk to, but you don't want to share to the people around you, as you said, because you're worried, not necessarily of judgment, but almost thinking less of you for speaking out. And I definitely see now that, as a lot of people that I spoke to have said, that it's more of a thing now to speak out as opposed to before. And I think in the last 5 years, how far things have come on for mental health is huge, especially in sport.
Exactly that. It's I've spoken a lot about player care, but like the well-being side of things and the mental health, it's like there's so many now places where you can go and speak, and not only but for men. I think that's the important part for me, and obviously us being males, it's hard for a male in a world where you're expected to be a certain way. You have to be, especially in the environment, a macho environment that you're in, and even going back to being a father, being a partner, there's certain things that are expected of you to be a certain way, and a protector as such, and all these things. It's taken in our stride as such, because yeah, these are things that are expected, but it is an expectation, it is a weight that's put on you, you know what I mean? So like you said there about not feeling, what's it you said? You said sorry about the judgment. It is that when you think about it, is the judgment of, okay, well, I'm going to speak to someone and say this, and how are they going to react to me being a certain way, and you're talking to yourself saying, oh, I can't say that because they're going to think this. And it's difficult because you're trying to find a balance of what's good for your own well-being, how much can I share that's not going to make them think, okay, I've really got to worry about him now, I've got to do all this, and oh, you should talk to all these things. There's a lot of things that come into it where you're still in the middle of all of that, you know what I mean? It's like all these different factors are going on around you, and a lot of it is just your thoughts and you within yourself, and attaching your positive, negative thought or whatever it is. Thoughts are just thoughts. It just depends how much kind of you give to that thought in a positive way, a negative way, or whether you give it any thought at all. That's the thing. Thoughts are exactly that. They can easily come into, as easy as they come in, they can pass by. You know what I mean? But as soon as you grab onto that thought, I think, and give something to it, you can go down a rabbit hole. And we've all done it, and we do it on a daily thing, for the better or for the worse. It depends on what route you take with that thought.
How did you cope? Obviously, you said you had your foot broken, again, no fault of your own. So then that comes into it where you certainly battle with the blame game as well. But what was your mindset? Did you try and be as positive as possible? Did you, as you said, you struggled and you weren't great to be around sometimes, but was that taking over the positivity, or did you have sort of a spell where it's a bit of both? What was your sort of mindset?
I've always been I take things in my stride. I'm always laid back, Ekin, you know what I mean? And I'm really positive. And I am. That is me, a positive outlook. My perspective is always, regardless of how bad my day's been, my reaction and the way I react to whatever that bad thing is will be in a positive light. Oh, okay, it's happened, and you know what I mean. My perspective is that kind of thing, and I think that's a powerful thing to have in life. But at the time when I was younger, it was hard to really stay in that place because, again, the outlet to be able to do the things that I do to manage myself, I wasn't able to do, and I was restricted on crutches and different things. So it was hard to stay in that kind of positive light and share with people and be open. And a big thing within football, which you see daily, people do it and they have to do it, is putting on a mask. You put on your mask and no one would even know there was anything up with me. That's the thing. So that's hard. The mask, putting a mask on, that puts a weight on you. That's things suppressing and all those different things. So that's hard to really do and be that smiley person, especially if you're a certain person in the change room, if you're a captain-like figure, if you're the funny guy, if you're all these things, you're expected to be that day in, day out. So when you're not, like, even if you are the guy you are a funny person, you're outgoing, you like getting involved in the banter, as soon as you take a step back, then it's going to be highlighted. People can say, oh, what's wrong with you there? Like, what's up? Oh, he's in the mood today, all this and that. It's like people say it just as a little joke, but you generally could be going through something. You don't know what anyone's going through. So that's why being kind to one another, it's important, but at the same time, amongst a world where you're getting bantered all the time, and we do all these things, banter and all this stuff, it's one of those. It's where it can go too far sometimes. It can help a situation. You know what I mean? There's a fine line with it all, where banter really can, amongst all the pressures and the stuff going on, it does get a lot of people through. So it's difficult to want to be involved in it all the time, especially when you're going through that injury and all that kind of stuff. But it's perspective. I think it's a powerful thing, the way you look at things, and it's just the way you react. It's something I say with the young boys at the academy. Like, constantly talk about reactions. Reactions are everything within the footballing world. Lose the ball, how are you going to react to things going against you? How are you going to react when things are going for you? Injuries, how are you going to react to everything is a reaction, and you all have a choice in it. You have a choice. I say to them, you have a choice whether you want to play football, don't you? They're all like, yeah. Everything is a choice. You know what I mean? There's some things that you can't control, but there are choices within that. Once it's happened, you have a choice the way you're going to react. Am I going to react in a positive way? Am I going to moan about all these things I can't control and use that as an excuse? Or am I going to say, okay, let me look within myself. What can I control? How am I going to work with these factors and move forward with it?
So throughout your career then, sort of, you talk about self-motivation, self-positivity and stuff, but who were the people, these can be family, friends, or teammates, coaching staff and that, who do you look back on and think, oh, he really helped me in that time when I was struggling? So for example, your time out in Turkey and stuff, what was the person out there? Because obviously you said you had a few things that went wrong at the same time and you were in another country. So that must have been incredibly difficult.
Well, the one person throughout my whole career has been my partner. My partner's really been there to someone I can talk to and open up about things and be open in doing so as well. And I'd feel I wasn't getting judged. Obviously, there was a certain point where I didn't want to share too much because I knew the stresses, the anxiety it could bring to your partner, but she really was an outlet and still is an outlet to help me to share in that. When I was younger, academy coach, Terry Westley's had a massive influence on my whole career in terms of, I think that whole thing around you mentioned the word motivation. Motivation's never been a big thing for me. I'd have that motivation and then you know what I mean? It was up and down for me. I've always been like that. So he really instilled that kind of habits, do the habits, and then it becomes a discipline thing. And it's something I really use within my day. And it is massive. Like, you're not going to have the motivation all the time, but if I'm doing my habits day in, day out, then that breeds discipline. And then even when you don't want to do it, you're that disciplined in doing all your habits, it becomes a norm. So you just do it. And then as soon as you start, you get into that beast mode, you get into that mold, whether it's working out, football, when I'm attaching it to that, there is a mold that you get into and it's like a switch. You're like, okay, we're here now. Let's do it. Let's show what we're about. And that's kind of when you get there with that. But it's a process. It's the day in, day out, bit by bit, the cliche things that people say, where bits at a time, step by step. But that is it. That is the way you peel it back, little bits, bit by bit. Okay, I've done that bit, then add a little more, then add a little more, and then ultimately I'm doing all these habits. Like before a game, I'm doing all these habits every single time, and then it's no surprise that I'm performing consistently. I'm scoring goals. I'm doing what I'm doing because I've now got these habits in place that I know that work for me, and they're my go-to. So the working out, the prehab, all the stuff, the recovery after the games, all that stuff. I understand a lot of people are, why are you doing all that? You don't need that to be able to kick up. But these are all the processes that go in place to ensure I'm prepared for a game. I know I'm not leaving nothing to chance. If I have a bad game, it's because I've had a bad game and things haven't gone for me, and I understand why. It's not, oh, well, yeah, I can blame all this, I can blame all. There's nothing to blame because I've done everything I've done before this game, and I know what I haven't done. So it's obviously down to me, and it's a good feeling because you know then there's nothing beyond out of your control that you haven't done in different processes, and you know you're doing all the right things, and you know it works for you. And once you understand who you are and what works for you, then it's a powerful thing and allows you to really evolve as a human being.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's you give a lot of advice. I know you say you go on, but it's definitely good that you do that because you speak a lot of quite powerful stuff. I suppose one of my last questions then is what would your advice be for someone, professional or not, who gets injured maybe at a young age, maybe at an older age, that has that mental struggle as well? Because I know my mental health was the biggest thing that I struggled with, trying to get through each day, not being able to do what I want to do and having people have to look after me, which, as you say, you're on about being a man, being a provider. I certainly see myself as that in my family where my dad's not around, so I want to be that figure of helping everybody. But at a time where I'm not able to, that impacts me more. So what would your advice be for people like me who was in that situation where you just didn't see moving forward as an option?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because we're all different as human beings, and like I said, our outlets with the working out and doing that thing, when that's taken away from us, what do we do? And I feel it's really important to understand what you enjoy doing away from, if we're talking in sports world, football, what you enjoy doing away from sport, like having that outlet and the kind of the hobbies. If it's a hobby, doing something that's not physical activity, if it's a club you join or whatever it is, if it's studying, because I think people have got a stigma around education, all this stuff. But if I reframed it to you and said, oh, well, why don't you try this personal development course? It's still education and studying, but when you break it back, it is such a powerful thing where you're developing yourself, you're focusing on something else away from it. It gives you that energy to say, okay, this is I'm interested in this. Let me explore it. Let me find out more. I'm learning about it. Okay, I've got this free time now. Oh, I've got to do some work now. So you know what I mean? It gives you that kind of drive. It redirects your energy into getting work done and doing different things. I think that's an important thing. And what I've learned doing different courses, the dual careers, and yeah, they can be stressful, but at the same time, they're outlets. You know what I mean? It's when football or whatever it is isn't going the way you want it to go, you've got this other thing over here. Biggest thing, obviously, family and friends, and having that right network around you and the right kind of people. Because obviously, you can have friends around you that are those ones that, yeah, they're great to go out and have a drink and all these different things. But do you need that in that moment? And is that going to be the best thing for you? And there's a time and a place for different things. You know what I mean? Whether it's just going to see your friends, having food, and all this stuff, and it's finding that right balance. But at the same time, you need the people around you to be able to share without, like you said, feeling judged in that space. So yeah, as us all being different as human beings, it's hard to give me to give one answer, but at the same time there's different outlets that you can really look into, and the studying route, the joining clubs, hobbies, whatever it is. I think having that other thing that you find you've got a passion for, or of course football's always, it's hard when football's such a big part of your life and consumes it day in, day out on the weekend, but you have got time. It's just about how much you're willing to do that. Is as a footballer, you have got time in the afternoon to do stuff. You can still have a nap and recover, then do some work and go to a coffee shop, set yourself up. Boys love going for a coffee and talking and all that things, different outlets. And while you're there, you can do some research, you can bounce stuff off each other. It's like putting yourself out there, networking, and there is avenues. So it's making people aware of that and understanding that just because you're not all the time focused football, it doesn't mean you don't care, and it doesn't mean you're not giving your all, because you're finding the balance to say, okay, this is me, this is my outlet, and your identity isn't around I'm a footballer, I'm a teacher, all these titles and all these things. That's not who you are as a person. They're just titles and things that are attached to you. You know what I mean? Really understand who you are. You're a caring, giving, you're that kind of person who wants to be present, and that's who you are as a person. All these titles are just titles, you know what I mean? You're attaching yourself to something, and that. So understanding who you are and as a person is a really important part of life, and for your own well-being and mental health, it makes a big difference.
No, I mean, that's great advice. I really have enjoyed this podcast. I think you've spoken a lot of information and stuff that's definitely resonated with me, and it's definitely stuck in my mind. So as I said before we started recording, I really appreciate you taking the time for this, and I hope that people like myself now, once I upload it and stuff, get a real bit of insight into how you can cope with situations that aren't particularly nice, and situations that you don't want to be in. So thank you for that.
No worries at all. I appreciate you having me on. It's been good to share and touch on and go back to some periods even that weren't very pleasant for myself, but I'm more than happy to do so, to explore and share and give, like you say, the little things that have helped me will hopefully help others.